Today, the airlines have been decimated by the coronavirus slowdown. Now, they're showing signs of life. Also, we look at how hackers and cyber criminals are preying on the 40 million plus Americans who are out of work. And finally, the lights are back on in Las Vegas as casinos open their doors to strong demand from tourists and gamblers. I'm MacKenzie Sigalos, and this is CNBC After Hours. Let's take a look at how Wall Street did today. Stocks finished mixed and largely took a breather after climbing higher and higher for the past several days, amid continuing unrest throughout the country over racial injustice. The Dow did finish higher, but just barely. Despite today's pause in momentum, the record highs are back. The NASDAQ 100, which is different than the main NASDAQ composite we usually talk about, hit a new all-time high earlier today and erased all of its coronavirus-related losses before falling and ultimately closing in the red. Now, this index includes the biggest non-financial stocks in the larger NASDAQ composite, and it was fueled to its new record high by big tech stocks like Apple, Microsoft, and Amazon. There's another group of stocks I want to mention that showed massive strength today: the airlines. Today, American became the latest major airline to add flight capacity for June and July. Now, these are huge one-day gains, but the airline stocks have been on a roll for a while, soaring higher and higher over the past 2 months. Remember, the airlines took a big hit from the coronavirus outbreak. Demand for air travel basically screeched to a halt. But things are starting to look up for this battered industry. CNBC's LeBeau has the numbers.
Little by little, we're starting to see more people flying here in the United States, and as a result, airlines are adding more flights. It all bottomed out in April as the COVID-19 pandemic really hit the airline industry hard, and you saw the flight levels, the number of passengers drop by 95% here in the United States. Well, since then, we've started to see more people getting back out, getting on planes, and as a result, the airlines are adding flights. In June, you will see on average the 4 largest airlines adding 27% more flights, almost all of those here in the United States. And then in July, things pick up even further, with both American Airlines as well as United saying that their flight levels will increase from where they were in May and in June. The idea here is that potentially we could see even more flights being added late summer and into the fall. What does this mean for the people who are out there flying? A couple of things. First of all, you will start to see more people on flights. But as this happens, the airlines are realizing that because of the COVID-19 pandemic, people are still perhaps not entirely comfortable getting on board. Delta out with a guarantee that it will cap no middle seats being filled through September. That's still a commitment from Southwest Airlines as well. So in order to keep these flight levels or load factors from reaching above 60% on Delta and Southwest and other airlines trying not to pack the planes full, you will see the airlines add flights. One other thing to keep an eye on, the fact that you are likely to see more fare deals, better offers to various destinations, especially as the economy reopens and the airlines need to fill more seats.
Okay, let's get to our sound check. Here's a roundup of the day's biggest action and what the top newsmakers and business leaders had to say on CNBC's airwaves today.
100%. We're not going back. The digital switch, the adoption we've seen of digital and online grocery, do the math. It's overwhelming in terms of the demand there and the changes. I don't see going back to just strictly an analog version of retail.
You know, I founded this business when I was 23 years old. I put $25,000 on my credit card with my co-founder, and we launched the business out of my law school dorm. And we went to market trying to help sales and marketing people hit their number. And the business grew organically and profitably since then.
Our firm, as you noted, is majority woman-owned, 60%, majority African-American owned, over 72%. But we also work really, really hard to improve our numbers. We have 36% Black employees, 30% women employees. Those numbers are higher than probably most other firms on the street, as you can well imagine, but I continue to try to improve them to be inclusive.
There are just barriers that exist that are not as evident to those of us who benefit from the barriers as they are to those who don't benefit from those. And you need to talk about them to appreciate them better. So look, I think as CEOs, we all need to start first look within with our own companies, and make sure that we're doing the things within our own companies, which I think we all want to do.
All right, we got another clue this morning into the state of unemployment in America. An additional 1.8 million people filed unemployment claims for the first time last week. Now, even though that's a lot of people, this newest data actually shows that the worst is behind us in terms of coronavirus-related unemployment, because the weekly numbers keep trending down. But just because we likely turned a corner, we're still facing a massive unemployment problem in this country. Over the past 11 weeks, more than 42 million people have filed for unemployment. And bad actors like hackers and criminals are now taking advantage of the historic number of people out of work by targeting them with scams and phishing emails. CNBC's Josh Lipton can break down the details.
Millions of Americans are now out of work due to the coronavirus pandemic, and that means millions of new potential targets for cyber criminals. In a new report published this morning, researchers at Checkpoint say that criminals are increasingly trying to take advantage of these newly unemployed with an array of cons and scams. For example, like this. This is an email from a person pretending to be with the U.S. Department of Labor, requesting personal information. But in reality, this is a criminal looking to access and control a person's data. Checkpoint's Mark Ostrowski says people can protect themselves with common sense safeguards. Make sure the email is coming from an authentic source, he says. Don't click on information you didn't request, and don't use the same password across multiple applications and accounts. But it's not just the unemployed that need to be increasingly vigilant. As more of us now work, learn, and play at home due to the pandemic, that creates many more opportunities for criminals. As CrowdStrike's CEO recently put it, the pandemic has created a breeding ground for cybercrime. Analysts believe that in turn will drive a lot more demand for cybersecurity software in the quarters ahead. Investors are paying attention. One ETF that tracks the industry, called Hack, has now surged more than 50% from its lows back in March. I caught up with stock analyst Rob Owens from Wall Street firm Piper Jaffray. He's covered this industry for more than 20 years. His top stock picks in the industry right now: CrowdStrike, Proofpoint, and Palo Alto Networks.
Now for today's numbers round. Let's kick it off with 78. The Las Vegas Strip is open for business after being closed for 78 days. Some casinos opened their doors today to the public for the first time since they were forced to close due to COVID-19. Now, there are new safety measures in place. The casinos are operating at a lower capacity, and staff inside the properties are wearing masks, although guests are not required to do so. The casino owners say they're seeing huge demand from customers. MGM saw so many booking requests that it decided to open an additional property, the Excalibur, earlier than planned. Next, $25,000. One Wall Street firm is paying incoming bankers up to $25,000 not to come to work. Recent grads who were scheduled to start at Evercore Partners this summer will get $15,000 if they delay their start date until January and $25,000 if they wait until next summer. This is according to the Wall Street Journal. Now, banks had a similar policy during the financial crisis in 2009, but the practice has been absent from Wall Street since then. And finally, 48. Commercial bankruptcy filings jumped 48% in May compared to the same month last year, according to the American Bankruptcy Institute. This is likely the first of a larger wave of bankruptcies that we'll see as a result of the coronavirus pandemic. Many of the filings were in the retail sector, names like Neiman Marcus, JCPenney, and J.Crew. That's it for After Hours. Stay up to date in real time with CNBC. We'll get another major update on the state of unemployment in America tomorrow morning when the feds release the May jobs report. Get the numbers as soon as we do at 8:30 Eastern tomorrow by going to CNBC.com and downloading the CNBC app. We'll be right here in our home office every Tuesday and Thursday with a new edition of After Hours, so be sure to catch us then.